Hopefully things are going well for you guys. As for me, welcome to the Gamerman's Lounge, and today I was about to come out when the time is right with a channel update video discussing the situation I'm in. So I just have to figure out the right time of when to do it. But the problem here is that something else has came up, and it's now basically getting me into switching gears, because now I'm looking at a situation that's been brewing that's going to affect not just me, it's going to affect everyone. And here's the thing, when things get resolved, I find myself situated well enough, and then the next thing you know, I open up Twitter, I open up YouTube, but then this is happening, and it seems as if gaming is going into this way more darker direction than ever. Actually, a more... I'm not going to go ahead and say cataclysmic, but I say it could be closer to cataclysmic as soon as possible, if we're not careful. And I'm going to say this, finding something new to play is going to be far more difficult than ever. We are talking about like Neo Geo difficulty level past 8 difficult. And most of it is going to basically involve this chokehold that's placed on not just creative freedom, but video game preservation. It's not going to stop, it's going to get worse and worse until it's basically all, like, choked out. And game developers are going to be having much more of a difficult time than they already have, basically trying to figure out what they can get away with when it comes to making their games. And that's going to be the big situation here. Game developers are going to be having a worse time than they already have trying to figure out what they can put and what they can design when it comes to making their video games. And this is regardless on whether that game developer decides to go indie or not. Even indie game devs are not going to catch a break. Hell, indie game devs are not even catching a break at all, as I've seemed to notice. I'll finally get on with it already. Basically, what I'm talking about is the situation on Steam that I'm already well aware of. People seem to notice how games, especially the adult-rated games, seem to disappear from the Steam marketplace. Now, you may have heard of it from your favorite YouTuber, you may have heard of it from across social media, and of course, I've heard it from Chibi Reviews. I've seen it discussed on Twitter. There is a new rule added into Steam's game content guidelines. Well, actually, it was forced to be put in. Let's go ahead and say that. And this is basically having something to do with payment processors. Basically, if you're a game developer, you have to be careful with what you put in your game when you're developing it, because you don't want to put something that is deemed not okay with the payment processors. Otherwise, you'll be having a hard time trying to get it sold on Steam. Steam would reject it thanks to the payment processors. So basically, the payment processor-related censorship that we're basically seeing when it comes to Pixiv, I know DL Site, there's... oh yeah, I remember Patreon, there's Gumroad. However, when things started getting investigated by people in the gaming community, it turned out that this payment processor censorship was instigated. We can say that this is something familiar when it came to the Azure Lane censorship, when we noticed outfits being removed from sale when it came to Azure Lane, and not being able to go back on sale ever again. Well, according to an anonymous tip, that incident was caused by someone going over to Google Play and saying something. So we fast forward to now when we see the payment processor censorship happen to Steam. Basically what's going on is that somebody went to the payment processors and basically said something to these payment processors, and now the payment processors said something to Steam, and now behold the result that we're seeing right now. So basically, if somebody sees something they don't like and they campaign to get it censored, they get backed off, the next thing you know, they don't quit. As a matter of fact, you do not, and under any circumstances, do not underestimate the power of insanity. They will do anything, absolutely anything, to get what they don't like censored. And this whole situation that's going on with Steam is a huge example. So when it comes to these kinds of people that kind of see a video game, or say a form of entertainment, or they found something they don't like, or it's not satisfying their checkboxes, they want war. They will do whatever they can to raise hell. That is something that I have been noticing going on for like years leading up to now. And if it's not that, they basically go and meddle at the earliest opportunity they get. And out of all the games that have been disappearing from the Steam storefront, it's going to be something that's not going to be your cup of tea, or it's not going to be my cup of tea, or something you like or something you don't like, or something I like or don't like. What's going to end up happening going forward is that it's going to basically lead into a slippery slope. And basically what goes on is that when somebody gets something achieved, they want to push that goalpost. They want to keep pushing the goalpost. And keep in mind, we're talking about fictional content, and video games is included when it comes to fictional content. Because when it comes to the video games, we play the video games, we go into these fictional worlds, and we go into these fictional storylines, and we take a look at these fictional characters, and etc. It all basically boils down to a lot of multiple motives, whether it's to basically make a huge move to make history, or to make a huge move in something political, or wanting to be high up in a pedestal, whether moral or political or a big fat etc. But of course, I do seem to notice that there is some anti-video game preservation scandals going on, like one example being the Stop Killing Games initiative getting hit by hecklers from left and right. Constant hecklers from left and right. Now, I do have an idea for a comment that I want to go ahead and add into, but I think it should be reserved for a different conversation in a different, in another video. But if the mature rated games or the more adult rated games get targeted a whole lot, or they get affected way more than ever good enough, it's gonna lead into a domino effect that could lead into a giant downfall. So that totally said, so I'm going to go ahead and bring up the fact that I've been getting into retro game collecting again for the sake of doing preservation on my end. So I'm preserving my retro games that I end up having in my possession. And I encourage others to do the same. Because if we're starting to look at something with what's happening to Steam, it's going to basically lead into another situation. It's going to basically brew into a much bigger problem than ever. Here's the thing, gaming right now is a train wreck. A serious train wreck. But now we're seeing things get way worser than it already needed to be. So if we start to see more worse results, and then the next thing you know, a cataclysmic result, we're not going to have a good enough idea on where to go from here. We're going to have to work with what we have to our advantage. Because I'm pretty sure what's going to happen is that we're going to see billions and billions of people out of the hobby. Unless you find something, whether you're not comfortable with it, whether you're comfortable with it, unless you find that something, people are going to be having to find a new hobby. And finding a new hobby in today's day and age is not easy. It's actually much more difficult than ever. And absolutely having nothing to do when you're coming home and winding down from a long, hard day is the last thing you need. So with that said, there's a lot of thinking and a lot of conversations that really should be going on more than ever. That said, that's all. I will be looking forward to you in the next video. Peace out.